Hello everyone, Juxtaposition here. Welcome to the Juxtaposition 1 channel. Today's video will be entitled Gematria and Gladio Murder. Today I'm going to showcase count them, six murders. And believe me, I could do 600 murders if we had enough time. We're just going to look at six today, and I'm going to show you how the Swiss Bank Authority and their kill teams for NATO, NATO military kill teams known as GLADIO, by the sword, although sometimes they use strychnine poison, barbiturate toxicity, garrote. Sometimes they throw people off balconies, into their jacuzzis, or onto the sidewalk below. They use all methods to murder people. Then they call it a suicide, a manic episode, rodent droppings, or anything other than what it actually was. So we're going to look at the John Fitzgerald Kennedy murder and how the bankers tag the crime scenes to laugh in your face to see if you can decode the ciphers that they left behind, the gematria, the numerology regarding the dates of the murders, the locations where the bodies were found, the homes the people lived and resided in at the time of their death. The homes are sometimes the murder scene, but often they're not. Maybe the body is killed somewhere else. Maybe the body is moved post-mortem. Happens all the time. John F. Kennedy, Mary Pinchot Meyer. We're going to look at Dorothy Kilgallen. We're going to look at Abigail Folger. We're going to look at Nicole Brown Simpson. And we're going to look at John Benet Ramsey. Okay, that's the six we're going to look at. And you'll be astounded, but perhaps if you're a paid member of my channel, you won't be surprised to learn the overt nature that these things are hiding in plain view. Anyone with tenets of thinking and a brain could figure it out. But it does indicate the control, the pacification and control that the Swiss bank authorities have over our society. 99% of the people walking around zombies like human antennas and walking hard drives. They cannot see the signs and symbols, nor are they interested in them, and they think it's just balderdash, poppycock, and mendacity, when the reality is it's Stockholm syndrome. The augmented humans are in love with their warden of their Hunger Game, their prison, their detention center, their secured corridor, their electronic net-centric warfare grid, their kill box, their strategic hamlet. All right, let's kick it off with John Kennedy. I've done several videos of JFK lately, and I'll probably have a whole channel devoted to the JFK NATO Swiss Bank Authority sanctioned murder, which is what it was. All right. So first of all, you should know that the John Kennedy murder occurred on November 22nd, 1963. So the first thing that you should be aware of is the date that something is presented in the national Mockingbird media. And I do want to emphasize Mockingbird media. There isn't a scintilla of truth to anything that you see on cable television. So you might as well just stop watching it. There's nothing truthful in your newspapers. There's nothing truthful in your magazines. And there's absolutely nothing truthful in the pseudo documentaries that come out in the months and years following. Also, the books are fake too. All right. So John Kennedy was killed in a Masonic pyramid triangle called George Dealey Plaza. There was an Egyptian obelisk there. JFK was killed at the coordinates of 999 on Elm Street. Elm Street is Commerce Street. That's what I said. Elm Street becomes Commerce Street at the railroad trestle. Main Street becomes Commerce Street at the railroad trestle. Commerce Street remains Commerce Street at the railroad trestle. All three roads come together at the railroad trestle, and above which the killers who shot Jack Kennedy from the front were kneeling using tripods with rifles, assault rifles that had suppressors, silencers, so that nobody at Dealey Plaza could hear the kill shots. There were other riflemen there, and they were shooting in a crossfire pattern, but none of those bullets hit Jack Kennedy. So we don't really need to discuss them for the purposes of knowing who killed Jack Kennedy. There were 3 snipers that were kneeling at the railroad trestle over Main Street. And when I say Main Street, I mean Elm and Commerce Streets. Commerce means merchants exchange. Merchants exchange means banking, means merchant banking. So if you're wondering who killed Jack Kennedy, the answer would be private merchant banking killed Jack Kennedy, headquartered in Basel and Zurich, Switzerland. They're the ones that paid for the kill. So if you look at it that way, if you want to strip away the money laundering, you have a bank that's killing a pseudo fake leader, John Kennedy, who has no actual authority whatsoever. He's merely a symbolic person. Signs and symbols rule our world, signs and symbols. And that's what Gematria is. That's what Jack Kennedy was. He was a sign and symbol for Juan Perón, for Augusto Pinochet, for Salvador Allende, for the pseudo leaders of the world, for John Paul I, who didn't get the message, and then John Paul II, who did get the message and complied. All right, it's for all the surviving pseudo leaders. That's where the message was intended. And it was Jack Kennedy's right eyeball that was blown out, leaving the left eye of Horace still functioning. He was shot once here in the neck for the code of silence, the Omerta Code, which Jack Kennedy had been violating, the Omerta Code. And first he was shot here, and then he was shot in his right eye socket. All right. So he was killed at a 999 because he passed 3 office buildings with the address of 6. The criminal courthouse building is 501 Main Street, and Jack Kennedy drove first around the corner onto Houston, which straddles 501 Main Street. 5 plus 0 plus 1 equals 6. This is right where the Egyptian obelisk is located at the corner of Houston and Main. And then Jack Kennedy proceeded north to Elm Street, where he observed George H.W. Bush's office building, where he has a CIA company called Zapata Oil. That's in 501 Elm Street, which would be right in front of Jack. Jack then made the sharp, very sharp 110-degree left-hand corner in front of the Texas School Book Depository Building, which addresses 511 Elm Street. 4 plus 1 plus 1 equals 6. The Daltex building is 501 Elm. That's 5 plus 0 plus 1 is 6. So now Jack Kennedy has passed 3 office buildings that are a 6, a 6, and a 6. That's a 666. And when you turn your back on a 666, which Jack Kennedy did as he drove down Elm Street, which is a decline toward the railroad trestle and to his kill box spot, he turned his back on a 666, inverting it into a 999, which means meta death. It means you're dead. It means end of cycle. And the limo parked at the concrete steps below the pergola, atop which on the pedestal stood Abraham Zapruder with his receptionist, not his secretary, but his receptionist. His receptionist is Marilyn Stitzman, and she supported his right elbow and shoulder whilst he videotaped the execution of Jack Kennedy by 2 shots from the front, one to his neck and one to his right eyeball socket, with the flangeable bullet that blew out the back of his skull and brain ended up on the trunk of the Lincoln Continental limousine. You will remember that Jackie, wearing a pink pencil skirt, got up and shimmied on her knees to grab her husband's brains, the size of a baseball, and put it in her purse. Could only do that if the limo was parked, right? Can't do it if it's going 25 miles an hour. All right, you try doing that in a pencil skirt. I double and triple dare you. Put a pencil skirt on and try to shimmy on a limo driving 25 miles an hour, which is the required speed of a motorcade. All right, so Jack Kennedy was killed at the mark of the beast as a 666, but when he turned his back to those 3 buildings, it was a 999, game over, you're dead, death. All right, Jack Kennedy had just completed 33 months in office. 33 is the highest level of attainment within the Egyptian pyramid, the Masonic pyramid of power. 33 is the highest level, and Jack Kennedy was had completed 33 months as pseudo president of the fake United States. Yes, and he was killed on November 22nd. And if you add those two numbers, 11 plus 22 together, you get 33. So he was killed on a 33 date after 33 months in office at a 999 meta death GPS coordinated spot below the Elm Street pergola at the bottom of the steps, the foot of the steps, parked in the middle of the street about 280 feet away from the shooters that could make that shot with both eyes closed. They could still make that shot. And they did. Perfect shots. The neck shot was perfect, and the eyeball shot was 100% accurate. Jack Kennedy was on corticosteroids and morphine. He was locked into a steel back brace, so the president could not duck, which he most assuredly would have done after the shot to his neck. There's no Secret Service guards anywhere to be found to block the shots. Roy Kellerman and Bill Gear were there waiting and hoping that the bullets wouldn't take them out. But they knew exactly what was going to happen, and Clint Hill was nowhere to be found. He was 2 cars back over with LBJ's car. So you see that Clint Hill, who the media turned into a hero, he was a coward, and he fled and abandoned his post when the limo turned from Main Street onto Houston in front of the Egyptian obelisk is where Clint Hill jumped off the bumper and waited for 2 cars to pass before he got back on the LBJ limo. So he let the motorcycles go by and then 2 limos before he got back on the vice president's car. All right. So you should know that the 2 buildings on Elm Street, the School Book Depository building is 7 stories tall. 7 is a Masonic meaning perfection and completeness. And the Daltex building, where George Bush has an office and Abraham Zapruder has an office at Jennifer Jr.'s, that is also a doppelganger twin of the School Book Depository, 7 stories tall. And Jennifer Jr. is on the 4th and 5th floor. And George Bush's office is on the 2nd floor. You should know that George W. Bush is present also. He's 16 years old, checking out the Dallas police motorcycles. So all the people were flown in for this special ritualistic killing, which that into itself is a gematria message of ritual murder, right? Why do you have George W. Bush there? Why do you have George H.W. Bush there? 2 one is a Yale alum and one is a future Yale alum. Skull and Bones. And of all the floors in the Texas School Book Depository, of which there are 7, 5 of them are for storage. And so 5 are available for snipers to use. But it was the 6th floor that was chosen. Remember the 6th floor? Why would they choose 6 when they could have 7 or 5 or 4 or 3? And the answer is very simple, because 6 represents 33. 3 plus 3 is 6. 33 is the highest degree of the Masonic order. So, of course, it had to be the 6th floor depository that you'd say the scapegoat killed the president from level number 33. So, again, Jack Kennedy killed on a 33 date after completing 33 months as president. The scapegoat is shooting from the 33rd or the 6th floor storage floor of the School Book Depository building. Of course, duh. All right, you should know that at the time of his death, Jack Kennedy was living in Georgetown. He was also living, of course, at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C. That comports to a 7, perfection and completeness. The home that he was living in before he moved into the White House was 2 houses away from Mary P. Show Meyer, his lover of 26 years, 26-year love affair with Mary Pinchot. Mary Pinchot was living at 3262 N Street. N is in Nancy. 3262, that's a number 13 house. Mary lived in number 13. She moved in there in 1951 while JFK was already living there with Jackie. JFK was living next door at 3260, which adds up to number 11, which is the highest degree of military order within the Pyramid of Power. It stands for perfection, completeness, and divine order. It's the highest level you can get in the military is number 11. should know that the highest level you can get to is 33, and that would be a level of a banker. So a banker is 3 times more important than is a general in NATO forces. The highest ranking supreme commander of NATO is 1/3 of bankers. In other words, it would take 3 generals to equal 1 private banker in Zurich, Switzerland. It takes 3 bankers, a ratio of 3 to 1. Bankers are 3 times more important than supreme commanders are. All right. So Jack Kennedy is basically sharing a wall. You can hear the toilets flush. For about 7 to 8 years, Jack Kennedy, Jackie Kennedy, and Mary Pichon lived, 12 inches away from each other. They're basically sharing a wall. And Jack Kennedy is in a number 11 house, and Mary Pinchot is in the number 13 house. Then when Jackie gets pregnant with Caroline, and Jack Kennedy becomes senator in the fake Congress, they move 3 houses away. They move across the street, directly across the street from Mary, and then 2 houses away to the next block. Not the corner house, but 1 house in. So initially 3 houses away. They moved from being door to door, 20 feet away, to being about 120 feet away from Mary Pinchon, the 26-year lover of JFK. They moved to the house that Jack Kennedy and Jackie and their nanny moved into was 3307. 3307 North Street, N Street. Okay. So 3307 is a number 13 house, right? So Jack Kennedy went from a number 11 house into a number 13 house, just like Mary Pichon. So now you have a situation in 1958, 59, 60, 61, when Jack Kennedy is a senator. He's living in a number 13 house, about 120 feet away from Mary Pinchon, his lover, and she's in a number 13 house. So the 2 lovers are both in number 13 houses. In case you're wondering about Ben Bradley, who happens to be married to Mary Pinchon's younger sister, Antoinette, they live at 3321 N Street. So they're another couple hundred feet away from Jack Kennedy. And all 4 of these houses are within 400 feet of each other. Ben Bradley is on the same side of the street as is JFK when he moves into the number 13 house. You should know that the 3321 house comports to a 333. 3 plus 3 plus 3 equals 9. So you got Ben Bradley's in a number 9 house. Number 9, revolution number 9 from the Beatles. It stands for the 9 virtues of the Masonic membership. The 9 virtues is the Ben Bradley house. So you got Ben Bradley, JFK, Jackie Kennedy, and Mary Pinchon Meyer all living in homes like 3 bugs in a rug within 400 feet, door to door for each house. Mary has her art studio in Ben Bradley's home directly above his 1-car garage, which means that Mary walks past JFK's house every single day, multiple times. That is if she doesn't come in. If Jackie's not home, she would come in probably. All right. So you have a situation here where Jack Kennedy is completely surrounded by military intelligence operatives, the Secret Service, which does their best to get him killed, make sure he gets killed. Dallas City Police, they participate in the murder of Jack Kennedy. The Dallas County Sheriff participates in the murder of Jack Kennedy. All the media and CBS Evening News, Walter Cronkite, William S. Paley, Dan Rather, they all participate in the cover-up of the murder of Jack Kennedy. So they're complicit. And then you have all the fake book authors, Jim Marrs and Gerald Posner and Oliver Silverstein Stone's JFK film and Mark Levin Lane, yada, 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 yada. All the book authors who conceal what I just told you. They don't tell you there's an Egyptian obelisk, a baseball throw away from Jack Kennedy's brain. They're not going to tell you that he was killed in a 999 address. They're not going to tell you that there's 3 buildings that are number 6s, and each 6 is a 33 unto itself. They're not going to tell you the scapegoat was on the number 6th floor, which means 33. They're not going to tell you that it was the mark of the beast, 666. They're not going to tell you about Erwin Schwartz or Abraham Zapruder's secretary, Marilyn Rogers. Marilyn Rogers is the secretary. Pardon me, Lillian Rogers is the secretary for Abraham Zapruder, but she's off with Erwin Schwartz, the guy who handled the money for the film that doesn't belong to Abraham Zapruder. There was a financial transaction. It was all handled by Erwin Schwartz. Abraham Zapruder not involved with the sale of that film. He doesn't own the film. It's not his film. It's not his camera either. He was loaned that camera. That camera does not belong to him. It's military intelligence. All right. So what I wanted to tell you is Marilyn Stitzman is the receptionist, and she was the one who helped Abraham stabilize himself on the pedestal. There were also other people there with Abraham Zapruder, the Hester family, husband and wife. They were behind the filming of the murder of Jack Kennedy, the Hesters. All right. So is that enough for you? Have you had enough 33s and enough 666s and 999s and Egyptian pyramids and merchant banking laughing in your face at Commerce Street, which is now know is Elm Street. You now know that Commerce Street is Main Street. Google it. I double and quadruple dare you. It's 3 streets on the east side of the railroad trestle, but once they go through the trestle, they all become merged into Commerce Street, which is code for banking, merchant exchange. Merchant exchange is commerce. That's what commerce is. It's the business of doing business. But you can't do business without a bank, and you can't do a motorcade without a bank-sanctioned murder. And you can't have a murder unless somebody gets paid, right? All right, let's move on to Mary Pichon, who was murdered 11 months later when the Warren Commission report comes out, but I don't believe Mary had an opportunity to read it yet. She just took delivery of the volumes, the 26 volumes of the Warren report, which concluded wrongly that Lee Oswald did it acting alone. That's untrue. So Mary Pichon already told you she lives at 3262 N Street. N is in Nancy. And that is a number 13 house, right? 3 plus 2 plus 6 plus 2 adds up to 13, which is unity amongst Masons. She lives 2 blocks away from the Canal Road and the Canal Towpath. The towpath, because there's a canal 2 blocks down the hill from Mary. Mary is up on a hill along with Jack Kennedy and Ben Bradley. They're up on a hill near 2 blocks from Georgetown University. They're just 2 blocks from Georgetown University. And had Mary gone to Georgetown University campus, perhaps she wouldn't have been killed that day. That day was October 12th, 1964. And what do you know? If you add 1 plus 0 plus 1 plus 2, 10, 12, what do you get? Yeah, you get number 13. 10 plus 3 is 13, right? 10 plus 1 plus 2 is 13. So Mary Pinchot lives in a Unity of Masons house, and she's killed on a Unity of Masons date, just like Jack Kennedy was killed on a number 33 date at a 999 location, whilst he was living 3 houses away from Mary in Georgetown at a number 13 house. So Jack Kennedy is living in a number 13 house, but he's killed in Dallas at a 999. Mary's living in a number 13 house, but she's killed really at the bottom of the Exorcist staircase. You may remember there was a film called The Exorcist. It came out in the early 1970s. And in that film, the little girl attacks the Catholic priest who is attempting to exorcise her demons. And she throws this priest out her bedroom window across the street and then down a very steep concrete staircase. Well, that staircase is literally about 200 feet away from where Mary Pinchon was shot in the back of the head on the towpath. It's incredibly close to the Exorcist stairwell. Now, there was no Exorcist movie on October 12th, 1964, when Mary was murdered. But you see how the controllers in Hollywood, they'd like to celebrate their ritual killings. Mary's killing was most definitely a ritual murder. She was shot first in the back of the head, then she was shot in her back through her heart from with the butt of the gun, which undoubtedly had a suppressor silencer. I'm sure it had a silencer, and the gun was touching Mary's sweater and the back of her head. So there was gunpowder all over the back of her head and over her back. And she had an Angora sweater, but it was all full of gunpowder. Then 12 years later, Hollywood creates a film called The Exorcist, where they celebrate a Catholic priest murdered about 200 feet away from where Mary was murdered. And they called the staircase the Exorcist staircase, down the steep hill that Mary would have had to walk down. She perhaps went down that exact staircase to get to the towpath. It's possible. It's also possible she could have used the paved road one building away. So I don't have we didn't have Amazon Ring cameras back in 1964. Otherwise, you could find out the exact route that Mary P. Meyer took to walk the 2 blocks down to the towpath. It's entirely possible she used the Exorcist staircase to do it, since that's not far from where she was shot to death. All right. So Mary was age 43. 4 plus 3 adds up to 7. That's important. That's perfection and completeness. All right, let's move on to Dorothy Kilgallen. She was killed 1 year and 3 weeks after Mary was. And in the case of Dorothy Kilgallen, she was killed at 45 68th Street in East Side Manhattan, New York, just two apartments to the west of Park Avenue. Essentially, she was killed behind the Italian embassy. The State Department for Italy is on the exact same block and is kitty corner to Dorothy's apartment. She has a 5-level brownstone apartment. The address is number 45, 68th Street. 4 plus 5 is 9. Number 9. Again, this is the same address that Ben Bradley has. And Dorothy Kilgallen has a number 9 address. She appears to have been killed on November 7th, 1965. That's 11 plus 7 is 18. 18 is the mark of the beast. 666. 6 plus 6 plus 6 is 18. I think that Dorothy Kilgallen was killed on November 7th. Her dead body was discovered the morning of November 8th, 1965, but by her hairdresser. And she was found on the 3rd floor. 3 is unity in the Masonic order, unity. And so she was sitting up with her back to the wall. And of course, when you turn your back to your own house, you have a situation where you're upright. So it's she had lipstick, expensive lingerie, and a robe on. It looks very suspicious to me. Dorothy was 52 years old. 5 plus 2 is 7. So just like Mary P. Shown, Dorothy's age comports to number 7, perfection and completeness. All right, let's move on from Dorothy Kilgallen, who was killed at a number 9 address in East Side Manhattan on 68th Street, and at age 52. Let's move on to the next case, which will be Nicole Brown Simpson. Nicole Brown Simpson. No, let's take that. That's not the next case. The next case is Abigail Folger. Abigail Folger has an extremely similar indoctrination and education track as did Mary P. Meyer. Abigail went to the Sacred Heart Convent School on Broadway at 2222 Broadway. Then she was transferred to a Dominican school in Monterey, in Spooksville, Monterey, Military Intelligence Monterey, right next door to Fort Ord, and the Language Linguistics Warfare Center for the Department of Defense, and the Navy Postgraduate Intelligence Center. She went to the Santa Catalina Academy all-girls boarding school. Abigail Folger. Okay, she was killed on August 9th, 1969, at an address she didn't live in at the cul-de-sac known as Cielo Drive. She was killed at 10050 Cielo Drive. That comports to 6. 6 is a 33. So she's killed at a 33 address. Now, Abigail was given provisional housing in Laurel Canyon, West Hollywood at 2774 Woodstock Road. That comports to 911. That's a 911 address. 2 plus 7 plus 7 plus 4 adds up to 20. 20 is a 911. You know what 9/11 means, right? It means the explosion of 3 towers in the World Trade Center. 9/11, it's the date that Donald Trump had a fake assassination attempt, July 13th, right? July 13th is 9/11. 7 plus 13 is 20. It's a 9/11. So Donald Trump had a 9/11. Abigail Folger had a 9/11. Nicole Brown Simpson lived at 875 South Bundy Drive. That's a 9/11 house. Nicole Brown Simpson, Donald Trump, Abigail Folger. They all had 9/11 houses. They weren't killed there, except in the case of Nicole. She was killed at 875 Bundy. But you should know that John Benet Ramsey, her body was found at a 9/11 house. She was found at 749 15th Street in Boulder, Colorado. I don't believe she was murdered there. I believe post-mortem she was moved to the wine cellar at John Ramsey's and Patsy Ramsey's gated and surveilled mansion at 749 15th Street. You do know that 7 plus 4 plus 9 adds up to 20. 20 is a 9/11. So you got John Benet Ramsey, Nicole Brown Simpson, Abigail Folger, Dorothy Kilgallen. No, is that right? Let's see here. We got Abigail Folger's living in a 9/11 house. John Benet Ramsey's living in a 9/11 house. Nicole Brown's living in a 9/11 house. I guess that's 3. Well, that's 3 too many, in my opinion. So Mary Pichon's living in a 13 house. Jack Kennedy's living in number 13 house. Ori's living at Pennsylvania Avenue, White House, which is number 7, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And Ben Bradley's living in a number 9 house. Now, you should know that Abigail's actual residence is in San Francisco. She's at 1750 Taylor Street at the corner of Green and Taylor. That's a number 13 address. I don't know what floor Abigail was on. It's like a 20-story apartment building. I'm going to guess she was on the 13th floor because that's just like, how could she be on a different floor than number 13? She's living at a 13 address. You should know that she shops at I. Magnin in Beverly Hills and Los Angeles and in San Francisco. Her credit card account address is 1750 Taylor Street, San Francisco. So as far as May Magnin Brussel is concerned, as far as Joan Didion, who bought the slut dresses for the Manson family and the peasant dress for Linda Kasabian for the trial, all purchased at the Beverly Hills I. Magnin store, which May Brussel owns. So if you are wondering about May Brussel, her name is Magnin. If you are wondering if she's in on the concealment of the murders of Sharon Tate and Abigail, the answer would be yes, she is involved in the cover-up, just like all the Jewish ladies are. There is no exception. There are hundreds of Jewish people involved in the cover-up of all these murders, every single one of them. That includes Oliver Silverstein Stone. He's involved in the covering up of Mary Pichon Meyer, and he's involved in the covering up of the Jack Kennedy assassination, because Oliver doesn't want to tell you the shots came from over Main Street on the railroad trestle. He doesn't want to tell you there's an Egyptian obelisk. He doesn't want to tell you about the 999 kill box location. He doesn't want to tell you any of those things. So he doesn't want to tell you it was Swiss Bank Authority and NATO Gladio kill team. He's not going to tell you that. If you want that, you come here to the Juxtaposition channel, you become a paid member. So anyway, Abigail, we know that her actual address is 1750 because that's where I. Magnin sends her bills. She bought some books. She bought 3 novels from a bookstore in West Hollywood. They sent her invoice to 2774 Woodstock. So she did occasionally use that address. She was billed for 6 hours of psychiatric treatments from Dr. Marvin Flicker, who put her on ecstasy the night she was murdered. Melvin Flicker is a medical doctor psychiatrist, and you know he records all of his sessions with Abigail. He said he billed her for 6 hours of treatment between August 2nd and August 8th. So that's 6 days and 6 hours. Now, I don't know if she had their 1 hour sessions or if they did a 90-minute session on Friday night, but Her sessions normally begin at 4:30 p.m. and they normally are 1 hour sessions. And I think seeing a psychiatrist every single afternoon for 6 days in a row is unusual. And especially if you're on ecstasy and then you get bayoneted 28 times to death at a number 33 address, 10050 Cielo Drive. There's a doppelganger twin house directly down the ice plant from the murder scene. It's 10048 Cielo Drive. That comports to number 13. So you had a number 13 house directly down the ice plant from the number 33 house where Abigail's dead body is found on the lawn. And she lives in a number 13 house in San Francisco. The house that she lives in Hollywood, Laurel Canyon, is 2774 Woodstock Road. That's a 9/11 house, right? That's across the street from Frank Zappa, Mama Cass Elliott, Natalie Wood, and Inger Stevens. They all live just 1 to 3 houses away. You could have a barbecue and they could all walk over within 3 minutes. That's how close I'm talking about. Then you could invite Andrew Getty. He wasn't living there at the time, though. He moved in there later, and it would take him more like 9 minutes to walk over. He's a little further away than the other Hollywood people. So Abigail Folger has a 9/11 house, and she has a number 13 house, but she's killed at a 33 house, which is directly above a number 13 house. Now, there are 3 staging houses where the killers would have taken showers on Sunbrook Drive. When you add up the addresses of all 3 homes, you get a number 13. There's also a number 33 house, 1212 Angelo Drive, that shares the driveway with one of the 3 staging houses. And so what I'm trying to tell you is Sharon Tate and Abigail Folger, the homes immediately in a 360-degree pattern are all number 33s or 13. Everything's 33 and 13. So you have Jack Kennedy is surrounded by 66, 666, and 999 on a 33 date after 33 months in office. And you have a similar problem with Mary Pichot, who's living in a number 13 house, and she's killed on a number 13 date. And Dorothy Kilgowan, who is killed on a number 666 date, Mark of the Beast. And when she turns her back to that date, you get a 999. So you also have a problem that Dorothy Kilgowan is 52 and Mary Pichon is 43, and they both comport to number 7, purity or perfection and completeness. John Benet Ramsey is 6 years old when she's garroted, so that's a 33. John Benet Ramsey. When her body is discovered by Fleet White and John Ramsey, they carry her body up the stairs and place it in front of the Christmas tree. This was the day after Christmas that her body was found, and the Christmas tree represents an Egyptian pyramid, not unlike the one found at Dealey Plaza to celebrate and commemorate John Kennedy's murder. So you have a dead body near Obelisk in Dallas, and you have a dead body next to a pyramid in Boulder, Colorado at 749 15th Street. I believe that John Benet Ramsey was garroted at Fleet White's home, which is not far away, because they had a party on Christmas Day evening. And I think at that party there was a ritualistic display involving John Benet, and she was garroted and then died. And then they took her home and waited until 6 a.m. in the morning to call police, so that she'd been dead for 7 hours, probably at least 7 hours. So in other words, it's a military ritual GLADIO murder of John Benet Ramsey, who was murdered on December 25th, 1996. And of course, 2 and 5 is 7, just like Abigail Folger was 25 years old. That adds up to number 7. And yeah, Mary Pichot, she's 43. That's a number 7. Dorothy Kilgowan's 52. That's a number 7. And John Benet Ramsey is she's killed on December 25th, which is number 7. You see the gematria, how it all comes together. Let's look at Nicole Brown Simpson last. And she was killed at 875 Bundy. That adds up to 20. That's a 9/11 house. O.J. Simpson's living at 360 Rockingham Avenue, which is really a bicycle lane with no center line, but they call it an avenue just to fake you out. But anyway, 360 is 9, number 9. So essentially, O.J. Simpson's living in the same address that Ben Bugsy Siegel was killed in, that Ben Bradley of the Newsweek magazine and later Washington Post editor lives in a number 9. Charlie Manson lived in a number 9 at this time, also 14400 Sunset Boulevard's number 9. He was moved to a number 13 house in Canoga Park. So Charlie Manson lived in number 9 and number 13 homes because, you know, they could have killed him, right? But instead they sent him to the gas chamber, but he got a reprieve from the state Superior Court of California. All right. You should know that Abigail's home in San Francisco is 7 blocks to the north of the Masonic Auditorium Temple for the Masonic Order, which is 1111 California Street. And if you wanted to go to Abigail's apartment, what you do is go 1 block to the east, jump on the cable car at Powell Street, and the Powell Street cable car will take you the 7 blocks to Abigail's apartment because she's on the same block as Powell and Green Street. She's up a steep hill. Technically, she's on Taylor Street, but Taylor Street doesn't have a cable car track, but Powell Street does, and it's only half a block from the rear entrance to Abigail's apartment building. All right, so you should know the Bohemian Club is 4 blocks to the south of the Masonic Auditorium, and the Bohemian Club's address is 624 Taylor Street, which comports to a 66, right? 66, which is a 3333. 33, it's 2 33s. 33 is the highest level that you can attain in the Masonic Order, and the Bohemian Club is double the highest level. You should know the Church of Satan is also a 3333 address, as is the Luxor Pyramid in Las Vegas, which is at 3900 South Las Vegas Boulevard. That's a 3333 address. The pyramid, the tallest pyramid in Las Vegas. And adjacent to the pyramid is the Allegiant Stadium, where you pledge your allegiance to a Swiss flag with 13 stripes. I said 13 stripes. That's at 3333 Al Davis Way. That's where they played the Stupid Bowl 2 Super Bowls ago. And Brock Purdy wore number 13, Unity Amongst Masons. And the winning quarterback from the Kansas City Chiefs was Patrick Mahomes. He wore number 15, 1-5. That's a 6. That's like JonBenet Ramsey. That's a 33-30. That's a 33, right? That Patrick Mahomes has the same number as does JonBenet Ramsey, who's 6, because Patrick Mahomes' number 15 comports to 6, which is 2 3s, 33, the highest level within the pyramid of power, which is 3 times higher than the highest level of military command. All right, so I hope you understand, and I didn't make this too tedious, is that essentially we have a connection with John Kennedy and his murder, and the murder of Mary Pichot Meyer, the lover for 26 years of Jack Kennedy, and the murder of Dorothy Kilgallen in off Park Avenue, East Side, Manhattan, at 45 68th Street, and the murder of Abigail Folger in Benedict Canyon at a 33 address, and the murder of JonBenet Ramsey, which was done at a number 33 address street, 15. 1 plus 5 is 6. That's a 33. And 749 is the street address. That's a 911 house at a 33 street, 15th Street, Boulder. And Nicole Brown Simpson, who was killed by a stiletto bayonet at 875 South Bundy Drive, which is a 911 address. And you should know that Nicole Brown's murder was on June 12th, 1994, and 6 plus 12 adds up to 18. That's a 666, and Nicole's back was turned away slumped at the bottom of the stairs. That makes it a 999. So Nicole Brown Simpson's killed at a 999, just like Jack Kennedy was killed at a 999. And Lino LaBianca, he was killed at a 999 date on August 10th, 1969. It's a 999 or a 666 date. So you got Lino LaBianca, John Kennedy, and Nicole Brown all killed on either addresses or dates having to do with end of cycle for the Masonic Gematria Order. I hope that makes sense for you, and will do like and share my videos. I am heavily shadow banned. Thanks again for listening. Take care now. Bye-bye.